right? So structure of the document that we structure here in the first column, you have chapter, or you can also call it the section that we say preface. First section is preface. That is, we define what is the expected readership. So you describe, say, the version history, including the rationale behind it, the why you, if you have created a new version, then what are the functions or the changes from the previous version. So it's really a preface, a brief summary of your document. So first document, normally first version, just say that for whom this is. So requirement specification, it is not necessary that you create a one document for everyone. So for example, you have requirement specification document for the end users. As we say here, everyone, all stakeholders need something, right? So say if you create a, they use the requirements to understand the system. So maybe the information that you want to give to system engineers or system test engineers is different from what you want to give it to customers or managers. So you can have different versions, different documents for different stakeholders. Now the introduction, next chapter, there you describe the need of the system, briefly say what it does, how does it work, and how does it communicate with the others, and all the overall business process or objectives, mentioning what software does and where does that fit in overall organizational process. Then it's always good to have glossary, so terms that you use in the document, explain them. We don't do any assumptions writing the document. Specifically, when you know that it's maybe you know them, there could be certain terminologies which are common sense for you, or you use them in everyday language, but not all users would use those terms. So if you're using some term, explain that what we mean by a specific term. And technical terms also, we need to define them. Not only the technical terms, but the other terms too. So user requirement definition here, you should really describe the services provided for user. Non-functional can be described, but sometimes non-functional requirements may go to other sections. So in user requirements, you don't say that you describe them using mathematics, but you can, the best way is to write them in natural language such as English, the diagrams, any pictures, other notations that are understandable to a common customer, processes, standards, right? So everything that you have to explain here using natural language. It's not that you just say this is a user requirement and you write a code and put it in the document. No, it has to be using natural language, diagrams, pictures, or any of those methods. Then system architecture, high level overview of the possible anticipated system. So where you show that what are different tasks or the functions across the system. Again, here you don't show the programs itself, but just the architectural different components, different boxes, using the diagrams and explaining those diagrams in natural language. So system requirement specification, here we say in the user requirements, normally you just define the functional requirements, but you can mention the function non-functional there. But in this system requirement specification, we describe both functional requirements and non-functional requirements in really detail. And right, so specifically if they are important or they are required in the software. Or here system requirement specification, you also define your endpoints or the interfaces, that how your created software talks to or communicate with the other systems. So the interfaces, the entry points, say if your software is giving some data output to other software, or it's getting some data from the other software. So those, the ways that your software communicate with the others. So there you define it. That helps the system engineers to create the system accordingly. So system models, here the graphical system models showing relationships, environment. Say this is more technical, it's not for common users. So system models, say if you are creating a database, then what are your entity relationships? Or if you are doing normalization in the database, so what is the first, second keys, and all those sort of things that you can. Or it could be, for example, if you're having an object-oriented model, what are the classes and all that, or what functions. So more towards the technical terms than the normal natural language expression. And system evaluation, here you fundamental assumptions on which system is based, and what may be needed in future, what are the changes due to. Now changes could be because of the users, or you might anticipate or foresee certain changes which might come in years in terms of hardware, software, user need, or anything that you can think that might affect the existing system, and you have to change the design. So this really helps decision makers that whether to go with this design or halt it, or we'll accept those evolutions. So this is really that whatever we are creating now, how sustainable that is. Will that be usable after 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years, or 10 years? So future changes overall. And then appendices at the end. So specific information. For example, if hardware database descriptions, what tools you would use. Say if you are creating a software system that can work only with MS SQL, or you are creating the software using PHP, or you're creating the system using Java Web Services or C++, all those sort of details that you have to mention there so that people really understand. And at index at the end, a normal alphabetic index. For example, if you're using any acronyms or diagrams, so list of all figures, list of all functions, and so on, all the things that you do in normal reports.
The Victorian Institute of Technology has other great videos covering many different topics. Please check them out, and thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe the video for more great content like this.